Getting proper mental health care can help you feel more like you. That's why Cerebral offers convenient access to online mental health services, including therapy and medication management. Cerebral's diverse clinician team can help with anxiety, insomnia, relationship issues, workplace stress, and more. You can schedule and communicate with your care team through Cerebral's mobile app and attend your sessions from the comfort of your own home. Get started with or without insurance. Plus, you can use your FSA or HSA. Start your first month for 50% off at Cerebral.com/ACAST.
Hi, I'm Dave, and this is my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
And this is The Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. And today we're going to see Joker. It's the new movie about the Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, the latest in the line of Jokers. He's the right Joker, that guy, isn't he?
I mean, he seems like Major Laws.
I think this is going to be a right hoot. It's the director of The Hangover. It's called Joker.
No, it's not the director of The Hangover.
Yeah, Todd Phillips, director of The Hangover 1, 2 and 3, Road Trip.
Really?
He's a comedy director.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is a comedy. Did you not know that?
I know it's not a comedy, but are you serious that he's the director?
This is Major Lol's territory.
Is he the director or not? I'm too tired to tell if you're taking the piss.
Joking.
Okay.
That is not a joke.
I'm actually excited for this movie because, well, aside from all the acclaim it's getting, the Joker is the only comic book villain that I've ever thought is actually scary.
Okay.
I think what's scary about the Joker is, and now,
have you not seen Sam Rockwell's fake tan in Iron Man 2?
I think what's scary about the Joker is that he's not like supernatural, and he doesn't have, like, so many of the villains we see, like particularly in Marvel movies, they're like trying to end the world.
Yeah. And
the Joker's just like a more credible,
he just wants
down-to-earth
to watch it burn.
He's like, to me, he represents like a very scary criminal. He's
a salt of the earth villain.
And he has an amazing pedigree. Obviously, he's been played by like Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger, and even in that video game you had of him before, he was really scary. What was that video game?
Batman Arkham Asylum?
Yeah, like every...
Do you know, that was Mark Hamill did that voice.
Oh yeah, I did know that, because you told me. But yeah, so the Joker's over, and now to have Joaquin Phoenix playing him, it's like they're keeping that pedigree up, obviously. Now, I think I might actually find this movie a bit too scary, because I've heard it's really, really awful in terms of scares. So I'm looking forward to seeing it because of all the acclaim. But yeah, I think for me, he's definitely the best villain around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this as well. I think the I only watched a couple of the teaser trailers.
Same.
And the posters for this are just lovely. They're designed.
The teaser trailers are incredible.
It's so good, so powerful. Like just a wonderful marketing campaign across the board in this whole thing. And Joaquin Phoenix is, let's face it, he's one of the best actors around these days. Almost as good as Jared Leto.
Oh God, no! I forgot about Jared Leto. When we're talking about the pedigree of the Joker.
To be fair, Jared Leto can be quite a good actor, but I think what he did with that role, and partly it's partly his fault, but also partly whatever was going on with the whole Suicide Squad.
Well, also it's a very different vein. Like clearly, this movie is like very, very serious in how they treat the character.
Why
and that
so
was
serious?
Not the case in Suicide Squad.
No, Suicide Squad was just about having a good time, right? It was just wants the audience to have a great old romp and lots of face tattoos.
And so you know the way this is like DC?
Yeah.
Does this mean that...
Yeah, Ben Affleck's in this.
Is he really?
Gal Gadot is going to show up halfway through.
No, I know they're not in it, but I was going to say, is it like technically the same universe? Like, will they exist in this movie? Because this movie looks quite gritty. And obviously Aquaman, which we watched a couple of weeks ago, ain't gritty.
Yeah, this ties... At the end of this movie, there's going to be a direct tie into the Aquaman sequel. It's Joker underwater.
I'd watch that. Okay, we better go to get our tickets.
I don't know. No, I think the answer is no. I haven't really read up on this, but I think this is its own... This is set in the 70s, in Gotham City in the 70s.
I didn't know that. Okay, don't tell me anything else, because I don't even know.
God, don't hit me with that's a spoiler, because it's not.
I didn't say it's a spoiler. I said don't tell me anything else.
All right. Okay, we'll see you guys on the other side of a Joker.
Bye.
Bye.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
You think this is funny? Is this a joke to you?
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Send in the clowns.
Hi, right, we're out. We've just seen Joker. It's very cold.
Yeah, it's freezing.
So we've got a bitter walk ahead of us. Cathy, why don't you start? What do you got? What you got for me? Hit me up. What's in this movie?
I guess I have two different stream of thoughts.
Give me both of them.
So the first is like intellectually, okay, fine, Joaquin Phoenix is brilliant. It's clearly very well made. A lot of care and consideration has gone into the look and feel of this movie. It's brilliantly made, right? I'm going to say all that. And Joaquin Phoenix is, like, astoundingly good. And it's interesting you said it's the guy who directed The Hangover 1, 2 and 3, because Craig Mazin, who wrote The Hangover 3, wrote Chernobyl, which was out this year. And this guy's made Joker.
Which is a great show.
So it just goes to show, Chernobyl's incredible, and he just like won the Emmy and stuff. So it just goes to show that like you can never predict somebody's future work based on their current work. I find that quite interesting. Like in a million years I wouldn't have thought that was someone who directed The Hangover.
But incidentally, I think The Hangover is a very good movie.
No, The Hangover's a good movie. It's just like this is like, this is an incredibly crafted movie.
Yeah.
Okay, but all that aside,
What's your second stream?
My feelings of the movie, not my thoughts. I hated it. I really hated it. I felt very distressed watching it. I didn't even enjoy probably 1 minute of it. I found it very upsetting, and I mean it's covering so many issues. It's covering mental health problems, loneliness, poverty, abuse, violence. It was way too dark for me. It's not the kind of movie I want to watch. And while I knew it was going to be dark and violent, I was not expecting. I think the problem for me is that Joaquin Phoenix is too good in it. It's a weird thing to say, but he embodies the character too much, and it's too dark to watch. And he lost, I read before, he lost 50 pounds to play the character. And I find that very distressing as well. I don't understand, and I hate when actors do it. I don't understand why people starve themselves to be in these movies. I find it deeply disturbing. So it was the whole thing was disturbing. Anyway, I really disliked it. As much as I can appreciate it's a well-made film.
Okay, I kind of feel exactly the same with you, but with a different slant. I felt all those things. Well, firstly, to your first stream of thought, as you say, I think this was I thought it was a brilliant movie. It's a brilliant piece of work. It's not only obviously his performance is amazing. It looks dirty and grimy.
It looks brilliant.
It looks like it's just seeping with smog and smoke, and it just looks like a dirty 70s sort of version of New York that's both familiar. It's actually uncomfortably familiar, and that's probably the two words I would most use to describe how I felt about this movie. It's a little too close to home, everything. As in, to your second stream of thought, I come out of this feeling dirty, a little depressed about humanity. It's just
That's what I mean about him as a
relentlessly.
villain. He's so much scarier. It's so much worse than like, oh, Thanos is going to snap his fingers and end the world.
Yeah,
that can't ever actually resonate
Oh,
with
I'd
you
love a bit of Thanos right
at
now.
a deep level. You know what I
But-
mean? Whereas this is like, fucking hell, this feels really realistic. Like, this could very easily happen.
This is what I wanted to talk about. It's too close to the bone.
It's too much.
Particularly in the context of today. And I think I do want to talk about sort of the mirror that this movie reflects upon today. And I know it's a fictional city.
I always think, though, God, I'd hate to live in Gotham.
Yeah,
The worst city in the world.
Who would ever live there? And according to Batman v Superman, Metropolis is like across the water. Like, you can get a boat, you can get a ferry trip over there. I'd be right over there, man.
Gotham's horrible.
But here's the thing, though. I agree with what you're saying, but also, like, that's kind of the point, right?
Well,
you're
yeah, but it
not
just
supposed
depends
to
on whether you
enjoy this. I mean, you.
Yeah, but lots of people are saying they loved it. I certainly did not love it. You
found
can love something you don't enjoy, but I neither loved nor enjoyed
Okay,
it.
but here's the thing. But we're both saying it's a brilliant movie, and I was gripped throughout.
I wasn't gripped.
And everyone... Oh, really? I thought it was absolutely
No, because
gripping.
I was just like, oh, I don't want to know where it's going. Like, at no point did I feel that I wanted to see what happened in the next scene.
I know.
Because it was just too distressing.
It's not... But here's the thing. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. At no point was I comfortable or really, like... It's not fun, either. But these are... Okay, this is kind of the good thing about cinema, in that it was atmospheric, we were engrossed, and it's thought-provoking and makes you think about society. It didn't make me think anything good about society, but that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like
cinema can be there to hold a mirror up
and
to
not
the
everything.
world.
Like I love fluffy popcorn movies kind of more than anything, and that's escapism. But it's okay to be uncomfortable and to be challenged by something, and I think this movie did all that. All right. However, it did the too close to the bone thing troubles me a bit, and I think we need to talk in spoiler
Physically
street.
too close to the bone. Like, why is he starved? Why has he lost 50 pounds with this movie?
Yeah.
I'm not being facetious. I have no idea why an actor would do that.
Well, it makes him a little like otherworldly, and
Yeah, but Joaquin Phoenix is like one of the best actors in the world. Like, he could have done this part exactly as he is, and no one would have thought no one would have thought, God, he should have been starving to play this
anyway,
role.
look, I don't want to get into that. What I would like to talk about is...
Oh, you don't want to get into that? Sorry.
No, well,
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, I've got nothing else to say. What do you want me to say?
Don't cut me off to say I don't want to get into that when I'm talking about something.
Okay, sorry. Well, what do you want?
No, I'm done.
do you want me to say?
That's all I'm saying. I just say
He lost a lot of weight for a role. People do that. That's whether you appreciate how far method actors go or don't go. I mean, yeah, it's essentially it's just a man pretending to be a comic book villain from the 60s.
Yeah, like,
so,
there's real starving people in the world. Like, why you would starve yourself
you
is beyond me.
can pick this kind of stuff apart, and yeah, this is essentially a silly thing. However, I think this movie has fallen under a lot of criticism for being quote unquote dangerous. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you read anything about this?
No.
So basically, there's a lot of people saying that this film glamorizes or forgives so the incel culture or male white mentally unstable shooters in America.
Was it one of the other Batman movies where there was a shooting in the cinema?
Yes.
Was that The Dark Knight?
It was in relation to there was a link to The Dark Knight. So this is my concern. But when I read all that stuff going into this, I thought this is scaremongering, and I am in no way in favor of, in general, like using movies or video games to
explain violence.
To explain violence. And this is a tactic that has been used over and over again for generations. Scaremongering. I mean, they said that Mortal Kombat was rotting our kids' minds. They said it about, like, Nintendo, about Grand Theft Auto. I play a lot of video games. I don't like. People are responsible for their own actions. However, the movies, having just watched that and living in the world we're living in, and knowing that pop culture is a very powerful tool, and symbols are taken as pop culture and used as identifiable icons to represent causes. For instance, the Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta being used by the anonymous hackers and in huge protests across the world. That's
I would not be surprised after this movie if people wore clown
masks. That's what I mean. There are scenes in this movie that I feel could easily spill over into real life.
Yeah, agreed.
And this is what worries me is, again, back to this, I think this is a great movie. I really do. And I personally am able to look at it and say, yes, this is a really interesting portrayal of a villain and a very mentally disturbed person who has been let down by society, and XYZ, and thematically and structurally, it's a really well told story.
Because you do start out rooting for him.
Well, this is the problem. The woman sitting next to us was, towards the end of this movie, clapping and dancing in her seat.
To be fair,
and
she was
laughing.
really drunk.
Now she was drunk, but this is in the scene where
there's no spoiler street.
Okay, we'll just move to Spoiler Street now, because I want to get into details.
We'll just wrap up before we get to Spoiler Street.
Sorry.
So if you haven't seen it, I don't wholeheartedly recommend it. Like, I think you would need to be in the right state of mind to watch it. In that, I would not go if you weren't feeling great mentally. And I wouldn't go if you're very tired, and I certainly would never recommend anyone under the age of 18 watch it in a million years. I don't know what the certificate is, but to me it's like a hard 18s. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish we hadn't gone to see it, to be honest. It's kind of like
really
ruined my evening. Yeah, like I feel very disturbed after it. Like I feel like I might have nightmares. And I mean, I felt really disturbed after seeing Heath Ledger playing the Joker in the other movie, but at least that was only a part of the movie.
But here's the difference.
This was the whole movie.
Here's the difference, right? The Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, they make a big deal about Heath Ledger several times throughout that movie, tells people his origin story, quote unquote. And it's a different story every time. I.e., he's an unreliable narrator, but B, his origin story doesn't matter because he's a symbol of chaos and violence and you know, what's Alfred's quote, some people just want to watch the world burn. Like he that's what the Joker represents, is complete madness. It's the rules of society gone wrong. And I think, or it's just taken away. It's anarchy. And I think this movie represents that sort of the origins of that very well. And it's sort of that's where the punchline is. However, like, by actually providing him with a grounded, solid, character-based origin story, like you said, yeah, you end up pretty much sympathising with him for a long time, and he's a victim. Up until the last probably 20 minutes of the movie, but you are kind of on his side. Well, yes, because he's a victim of a series of, like, it's all... He's treated awfully, like, his whole life, so... Yeah, that's so what and he's kind of played concerning. Almost as he's almost like the characters we see at the start of a quote-unquote regular superhero movie, where he's actually set up as someone who's got like an axe to grind with the system. He's a vigilante, you're kind of on his side, and you know, lots of the media are on his side, and that's actually the same for any superhero. It's just towards the end he suddenly kind of flips into being a supervillain. But actually no, that's why this movie is, you're so right, and I'd written this down. That is, it's a clever inverse of it's the exact same mechanics of a superhero story. Like, exactly. He's even being hailed as a vigilante by the media. So I thought it was brilliantly constructed in that regard. But also, like, it's sort of a masterstroke to make you empathise with someone and put you in his shoes, and then take you on that journey and then have him do horrific thing after horrific thing.
That's why it's so disturbing.
That's what.
Whereas if he just comes in as the cold villain, you're like, oh yeah, there's the Joker, he's the baddie.
But like, I'm all for cinema doing that. But the problem is when people don't understand what's being done there.
This is why you should not be watching this movie if you're young.
Yes, exactly. Because
if you were like a very angst-ridden teenager, I think this movie could be really bad for your brain development. Like, I really do. If you're vulnerable, I think it's a terrible movie. And I guess I know that like underage people always watch movies they shouldn't watch, because I used to do it. So yeah, it upsets me that it's out there to be consumed by vulnerable people, because I do think it's very, very distressing. And you know, even towards the end of the movie, they are like.
Can we just go to Spoiler Street now? I think
we'll go to Spoiler Street.
Right.
Before we get to Spoiler Street, if you do a quick shout out to some of our patrons of our Patreon, which is the Cinemile High Club. So www.patreon.com/the Cinemile, and it's where we've been running it now since like April, so we've been doing it for ages. So we have a huge back catalogue over there of retro movie reviews. We do a different one every month. We've just done Heat, so we've actually now just done a Robert De Niro double bill.
And we're going to watch The Irishman next. He's having a big one for us.
And we're doing like loads of like TV reviews. We've loads of fun. It's like a forum where everyone gets to kind of talk and vote on what we're going to watch.
Yeah, so you get to vote on what we're going to watch next. We've got a poll up there at the moment for prison movies. So if you want to suggest some prison movies for us to watch, head on over to patreon.com/the Cinemile. Just like all these lovely people did, like Laura Winton. Thank you so much, Laura. Sienna Ryan.
Thank you.
Monica Verma. Joe Boy. Rob Benyer and Jimmy Cullen, your dad.
Oh, hi Dad.
Thanks, Jimmy.
He won't be listening because he will not have seen this movie.
Financially supporting this podcast. And a huge thank you to all of you I've named, and everybody who's gone and signed up and donated. Like, it really touches us. It's just lovely to think that you guys love this show so much that you're
willing to the cost of the podcast,
help us do these things more, because that's what we want to do. We love doing it.
And like tonight, you know, you got to pay for the babysitter and you got to pay for the pizza. Went to my favourite cinema, the Light Cinema, where they do amazing pizza. So that was like, I was so happy eating the pizza, and then when the pizza was gone, I was like, oh no, now I'm just stuck with this movie, and I've like nothing to distract me. So I was gutted when the pizza ended. Anyway, we're on to Spoiler Street, right?
It's so mucky here.
It's really mucky. So if you don't want to hear spoilers for Joker, turn off now, okay?
Yeah.
Now, firstly, this has never happened to me in my life. I went to get a drink of water, came back, and Dave leans over, just to fill you in. He's killed his mother.
Yeah.
It's the only laugh
you missed
I got
a really crucial bit.
But I was actually like, I needed a break from the movie. That's why I went to get a drink, because I was finding it too intense. Similar to how I needed to in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay, here, I was just about to bring up Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Two things. You just said it was the only laugh you got in the movie. I was disturbed at the amount of times our audience were laughing with Joaquin Phoenix. At the most inappropriate times, and also they were laughing at the fact that the little person couldn't open the door.
Finding high-quality mental health care can be daunting and exhausting. That's why Cerebral offers convenient access to online mental health services, including therapy and medication management. Cerebral's diverse clinician team can help with anxiety, depression, insomnia, stress, grief, big life changes, and more. You can schedule and communicate with your care team through Cerebral's mobile app and attend your sessions from the comfort of your own home. Get started with or without insurance. Plus, you can now use FSA or HSA. Start your first month for 50% off at Cerebral.com/ACAST.
Yeah,
which I felt
really
like, guys, like, what?
But I think the film made a joke of it, though. Sometimes all you need is for the filmmaker to pose a certain scene being funny, and you are kind of brought on the journey to laugh. Like, that happened in Hustlers a couple of times when I was watching it. Like, I was laughing at stuff that I don't actually find funny, but the filmaker was just very good at like bringing you on that comedic journey.
Yeah, that's the film
but
inviting
I don't laugh
you to
at
laugh.
It. Like,
but
I don't laugh at someone who can't open a door.
Well, exactly, and I was like, I don't feel about, and like the difference is the obnoxious character who he kills in that scene, who gave him the gun, he's making horrible jokes about midgets throughout the movie, but that's okay because that's him in character, and that's his character. But it's when the movie was
and even Joaquin Phoenix was frowning upon that. Like Joaquin Phoenix, he wasn't impressed when the guy was making those jokes, and no one else was.
Okay, here's another thing. Here's another thing, which was a again a masterstroke, but also B, disturbing at how like a teenager could view this, because when he kills those three whatever, like
Wall Street
douches working for Thomas Wayne on the thing, I found myself like cheering in my head, like it's like it's that moment of like you stood up for yourself and you did it, and they deserved it.
The first two guys were the first one was actually self-defense. Like they're kicking. Like if you're to put yourself in the mind frame of somebody who believes that you have the right to defend yourself with a gun, which I don't, but if you do, and you're on a subway, and these guys start kicking the shit out of you, the next step of that is, and you've a gun, the next step is that you shoot someone. The thing is, he shot the next guy, and then he shot the next guy in the back.
It's not.
I'm just saying
a fair retaliation if someone's kicking you to shoot them.
I'm just saying that, like, in some quarters, it would be deemed legally self-defense. Not in this movie, because he didn't even have a
I just want that to be clear, that we are not saying
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, he didn't even have a license of a gun. But he shot. You could argue, I think, somewhat that the first guy was in self-defense. The second guy was not self-defense, and the guy he chased off a train and chased up a stairwell and shot multiple times in the back was not self-defense.
But that's why that scene is so good, because you
are on his side.
You're on his side right up to that moment, and like you say, the first murder or two, you're still on his side, like, because it's a movie, and we're watching it, and it's like,
but it's an unprovoked attack on him.
And then by the third
Plus
one, you're
they're
like,
abusing that woman on the subway, so they are posited as real baddies.
Yes, but it's very deliberate and it's very clever. However, again, it's just like, there are people in this world who feel all the things that character is feeling and internalize them in diaries and say that nobody understands them, and that the world and literally obsess about women and fantasize about them, like just like he does, and then who end up going out and getting semi-automatic rifles and taking vengeance on the world. I'm sorry, this happens in the world. And this movie is bringing you on a journey sympathizing with a character who does exactly that.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was when he was like, once he was murdering people, I was not sympathizing with him anymore.
No, because you're a sane, rational person, and that's my point. And again, it's back to what I was saying in the beginning. The movie hasn't done anything wrong, right? It's a story, and again, so this is why I'm back to like calling this like anyone who says this is should be banned, this guy, blah 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 blah. No, that's censorship. That's stupid. But we do live in a reality where we run those risks, where art and storytelling creates symbols, and Batman and Joker and all these characters are indelible symbols of our society right now. They've survived for decades now. Superheroes is modern mythology, so they're hugely like wrapped up into the very fabric of our society. Our son's only 2 and he knows Iron Man and Spider-Man and Hulk. He knows all these names.
Yeah.
Like,
luckily he doesn't know the Joker.
But like, so it kind of is dangerous, and I fear, and that's what, by the end of this movie, when the streets are burning and there's clown masks everywhere and he's being hailed by everyone on the street as a symbol of
like a hero.
Of a hero, basically.
He's like a working class hero. That's how they're billing him.
I felt like some of the people in our audience were with them. And the woman next to you was...
Well, she was, but like, to be fair, she was drunk.
But Cathy, this is my point. There was a woman next to you who was cheering along with this movie. Like, she has missed the point, and this is my, like...
No, maybe she's exactly gotten the point.
I'm not saying she's going to go home and put on a clown suit and start kicking the shit out of people, but someone might do that.
I know.
And that's...
I agree with you.
So anyway, but I also don't know a way around that, because you can't also just say no, don't tell stories about psychopaths, because otherwise we wouldn't have had American Psycho, or we wouldn't have any of these things.
Yeah, but those movies are different because you're not quite in their shoes like you are in this one.
You are. You're in Patrick Bateman's shoes
but
the
you're not.
entire time.
I'm not on Patrick Bateman's side though. I felt like I was more, because for the Patrick Bateman's like a very privileged person, right? But the Joker's like, he's had an abusive childhood. He's been like treated like medically and with counselling for his mental health problems and his mental illness, and then the system just runs out of money and the budgets are cut and he's given no more counselling or medicine, and that's really when he starts to unravel. So that's very different to me than someone like Patrick Bateman, who's like a rich asshole.
I would say they are both people dealing with issues where they cannot tell the difference between reality and
I'm
fiction.
just saying, when I'm watching a movie, I'm never going to be on Patrick Bateman's side, but
Okay.
I was really feeling for Joaquin Phoenix. I was feeling for his character when all of his support was just being cut.
Actually, funny you talk about privilege there, because that's one thing I did not appreciate the movie doing, and I think it didn't need, was adding a class war into the middle of all this, because that's an actual thing that's happening right now. There's a huge divide between the rich and the poor, and people are taking to the streets about this. We had the 1% protests in the past few years. There's climate change activists.
It feels appropriate to me though, because they're tying it in with the Waynes. For good or bad, they tied it in with the Waynes, and the Waynes are like the epitome of privilege. So it kind of makes sense. When you're pitting him against the Waynes.
Fine, but then they made the Joker the symbol of the working class. The symbol of the impoverished and the downtrodden.
So has that never been the case before? In any
I don't know. I don't know this stuff
I only know them
intimately.
randomly from like random movies.
I don't think so. I can't imagine like in 1956 that they released a comic in which Joker became a symbol of the...
But comics evolve.
I don't know.
If it's been going for 50 years, there's probably an iteration of it where this story is. I don't know.
Maybe. I just thought that was weird and unnecessary, and
I just can't believe we had to watch bloody Bruce Wayne's parents being killed again, and that fucking pearl necklace.
The pearl necklace. Always with the pearl necklace.
I can't watch this clip again. Like every time I see it, I say, surely this is the last movie that's going to do it. This movie's way too too cool to do that.
Yes, okay.
And then the movie does it, and I was like, oh, for God's sake.
There were a few moments where I was like, no movie, you're better than this. That was one of them where I'm like, don't show the fucking Bruce Wayne thing. Like, we get it.
Yeah.
Here's where they should have stopped.
The guy just walks down the alley and we know.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I actually wanted the Joker to do it because I thought that was a really cool story.
No, I think it's more interesting if he just incidentally inspires it.
Also, they kind of left it open-ended. They could be brothers.
Yeah,
right at the end of the picture of the mom with Bruce Wayne's dad had signed. So I thought that was quite good. And they did look alike in that bathroom
scene. And they could have
scene.
just made him... They could have made the mother... they could have faked some adoption papers.
Because she was saying, like... She said, oh, he made me do all that to cover the tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually... But that was so disturbing when we found out that how much he'd been abused as a kid as well. Like, it's just too much. Like, there's too much stuff in this movie.
It was just awful.
But
one other thing. There was one other moment where I was like, no movie, you're better than this. Treat your audience better. Like, when he's in his neighbour's apartment who he's been fantasizing about, and he's sitting there,
and then she
goes, oh, you're Arthur from down the hall, right? I need you to leave my apartment. And she's freaked out. It's like, yes, right, we've got it. I've pieced together now, thank you, which I had done already half an hour ago, that this is all in his head. You've laid the groundwork. You've shown him. You've shown the audience that he has fantasies with your Robert De Niro thing from the beginning. So like, don't give us the Fight Club moment of flashbacking through every single scene and showing us him in an empty chair. I'm like, come on. That just felt to me like they ran a test screening and some audiences came back in their test card said, but I don't get, like, was he actually dating her and then she went off him or something? And also, I really like the Joker and he's a hero, right?
I didn't guess it as soon as you did. Like, at first I thought she was there, but then I was like, why would she be there? Like why would she say, you followed me? Ha ha ha! Like, no one would be happy that someone followed them.
It didn't make any sense.
But like, to talk about Joaquin Phoenix's acting for a second,
he's dancing. It's amazing.
Like, how he plays like the first 2/3, if not more, of this movie versus how he plays once he's killed his mother, and then the guy from the clown work, and he's dyed his hair green. He's a completely different character. At that point, it's like, I see Jack Nicholson, I see Heath Ledger, I see that swag and that confidence and that like amazing dancing he's doing. That's a completely different person than the person we see at the start of the movie. And I think it's amazing how he did that, because it's still relatively subtle. Like, you can see the journey that he went on to become that character, but like when he's dancing at the end, like, it's unbelievable. It's terrifying. But you see how confident he is. Like, murder and violence and mayhem like fuels him, and that's really disturbing. And I love how they work the dance in from a very early stage. Like, after he's murdered the three banker guys, he slips into a bathroom, and then the dance sort of just emerges from him, and then it just escalates from there. Whereas at the start he was just dancing, pretending to be dancing. Like, he's quite sweet at the start. He's just pretending to be dancing like with a girl in a bar. Yeah, and then with his mom. But that's what, like, I felt like his transition was so disturbing, because at the very start, even when those kids beat him up and it's awful, he says, like, well, they were just kids. And actually, for a while, we see him just trying to, like, really just entertain children. Yeah. And it really all unravels for him. I think it all basically kicked in when they took his meds away and his counselling away. And that's why I just found it so profoundly depressing and sad. Because it all kind of kicked. It was like this huge piece about his mental illness. Like, it's just very distressing to watch. But yeah, and he is amazing. Like, I think he's an amazing actor. But honestly, he's too much for me. Like, I never really enjoy watching him because he's so intense. But isn't that part of the problem with mass shootings? Is that they get blamed on mental illness. Instead of, a terrorist act. That's an actual problem in the media. And then in this instance, in this movie, they make him basically a victim of society. Society's terrible, and he has a mental illness, and he went off his meds. It's almost like it's letting him off the hook a little bit. Like, it's like, where's the responsibility? No, I don't think it's letting off the hook, because it's still like when he... I think the only bit where the movie you could be seen as letting him off the hook is the initial subway murders, because of the whole self-defense thing. Like, when he kills that guy in his apartment, that is disgusting. Like, that was an absolutely horrible scene. Like, and I don't think anyone in our audience was with him at that point. And then he just shoots Robert De Niro. Next to you. And that was shocking. Like, and he said, like, Murray. I mean, it was so great that he was going Murray, and like, that's creepy. To me, it was just like, oh my god, it's like Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger and him all combined, and this is like the Joker on stage. Like, it was truly astonishing scene how good it was. But he's like being awful to Murray, and it's like, well, actually, Murray's your idol, and he brought you on his show, which is all you ever wanted. So it just showed at that point he'd completely checked out of reality, that he thought it was appropriate to shoot him live on telly. Yeah. Like, and at that point, I think the movie is not taking responsibility away from him. Yeah, but the movie's also telling you that Murray's making fun out of him, so it's almost him getting retribution. The movie's a little bit saying, like, yeah, he got his comeback and he got to say an awesome badass one-liner, and then got his vengeance. Really shocking, like, that was scene. Very shocking. I was not expecting that at all. But can I say, incidentally, just to lighten this a bit, did you think it was a bit silly how basically they had a viral video in the 70s? Like, who's filming in this dingy club? Right. Exactly what I thought. And it's like, okay, it's like... But to be fair, it wasn't like a handheld thing. It was like there'd been a fixed camera somewhere in the room. But how had that gone viral? How had that gotten the attention? I don't think it had gone viral. I think it had just been sent to this... Apparently there's only one late night talk show in Gotham. It's on every night, and it's Robert De Niro. And he's just like, and if you think about it, in those days, like, wacky clips. People would have sent in clips to a show like that. But I also didn't buy it. I didn't buy that, like, that he would just, like, make fun of this person live on it. I don't know. I didn't really buy it. It felt a bit mean, but then when you think back to 70s comedy, like, it was quite crude and mean. Like, even the guy who's on stage before the Joker, and he's making jokes about sex and how men treat women like parking spaces, and how they treat disabled parking spaces. I was like, oh yeah, that feels like a true 70s stand-up to me. Like, yeah, like you wouldn't have someone making those jokes now. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's just, I watch movies like this and I'm like, why did they make it? I don't get it. Like,
but
I don't understand what drives somebody to make this movie.
It's important to look at the dark side of humanity as well. I think you need to address that stuff.
I know, but I like when it's addressed. When it's I guess when it's not the central protagonist, and we're not seeing any.
Do you mean like balance and context, like in Mindhunter?
Yeah, I think Mindhunter is a really good example of the TV show, which we have reviewed over on our Patreon extensively. But where it's like, you of course you're seeing the dark side of humanity, but you're also seeing the other side. And I guess like what my problem with this movie boils down to is that it's so one-sided, and it's like so hopeless, and it's so it's just so violent at the end, and like it's literally like Hail Payman, like he's literally standing up in a car and everyone's cheering him.
Good reference.
And then he ends up in I guess what is a mental institution or like a prison, and then he's with this woman who's like a perfectly nice psychiatrist or like counsellor, and then he runs out covered in blood. So you're like, wait, he just murdered her?
Yeah. Because
even in the movie, okay, you could say that like from his perspective, the guy from the comedy club stabbed him in the back and like Robert De Niro was mocking him. This is just a perfectly nice woman who's counselling him at this point, and yet then the movie ends on him in what could be perceived as a funny scene, being chased by somebody and dancing.
The audience
and that's
were laughing.
What I mean. So that's why I don't like that. I don't like that was all we followed, and there wasn't a single nice plot in the movie. I don't like that.
But this is what I was going to say about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's the same thing. It's like it was uncomfortable the way the audience was reacting to this. So again, it's not.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was like made as more of a comedy, like directly more of a comedy than this, though.
It's almost I'm not disturbed by this movie. I'm disturbed by people and their reaction to this movie. And actually, in the 10 years since The Dark Knight was released, how like.
I never liked The Dark Knight, though, so I guess I never enjoyed those movies. So I guess I should have known I really wouldn't enjoy this.
Look at how Heath Ledger's Joker has been treated. You referenced mass shooting, but like in general, he's on posters. Why so serious is a huge catchphrase.
I think that's in part though because
it's iconic.
He died and then he won the posthumous Oscar. I think that kind of elevated it to a different level.
That is true.
Than it would have. Not that he wasn't amazing and it wasn't going to be a huge movie regardless. But
my point is,
the
he's
difference
a symbol.
Is it's like James Dean or someone. When you die young and you've epitomised that kind of a role, you just become a bit of a legend in it. Whereas Joaquin Phoenix, hopefully, will go on to make lots more movies, so he won't be defined by this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've talked long enough about this movie.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
But let us know what you think, because I know loads of our listeners have already messaged us that they think it was really brilliant and they were looking forward to us watching it.
There's some really interesting discussions to be had around this movie, and that's why another reason why I think it is a really good piece of work, because it's like we just had a half an hour conversation about this, and I want to talk more about it and read about it and discuss it.
I don't think I do. I think I'm done now.
You're done? Okay.
I'm not gonna. Usually after we've seen a movie and recorded our chat.
Yeah, we usually talk for another hour.
We'll talk for longer, and I'll often go off and
That's called the Cinemile Uncut. It's just for me and Cathy.
And I'll go off and read IMDb or whatever, like some articles. Like after Ad Astra, like I really enjoyed, for example, after Ad Astra, reading loads of reviews of that. But I'm not going to read anything. But I'm done with this. Like I know it's getting amazing reviews, but like I don't need to read them.
But here, it's a really interesting counterpoint to Ad Astra, because I came out of that like optimistic and hopeful about humanity. And this was the complete opposite. So I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit down.
We'll have to go home and watch Graham Norton or something.
Yeah, something light. All right, thanks for listening, everyone.
Or watch RuPaul's Drag Race UK, which we watched last night and absolutely loved.
That was great.
Yeah, that's what we need to watch.
Maybe we'll do that on the Patreon. Right, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at The Cinemile, or email us thecinemile@gmail.com. We will always write back no matter where you write to us, because we love talking to you guys. So let us know your thoughts. Do you disagree with us? Do you love this movie?
Do you think Joaquin Phoenix is a terrible actor?
Did you think it was hilarious and that he's a hero for our times?
Are you going to start wearing clown makeup to rallies?
Yes, please don't do that.
Were you that drunk woman next to me in the cinema?
Yeah,
frankly,
let us know.
I was just jealous of her, because I wanted to be drunk.
Okay, well, you can't be drunk because you're very pregnant.
Well, exactly. But
Yeah.
this movie would have been all the better for it, I think, because I think if I'd enjoyed it as much as she did, I would have been less disturbed by it.
Oh, so maybe that's the trick. If you've got a load of drink down you, this movie's a right hoot. All right, come on, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy. But now I realize it's a comedy.
If you just